On Sunday, the 26th of October 2025, in the city of Al Fashir in western Sudan, violence erupted and the streets ran red. Over the following days, witnesses described the rapid support forces dragging men from their homes, executing families, and torching shelters where civilians had sought safety. The massacre left more than 2,500 people dead and brought the conflict back into the headlines. Al Fashir was the last stronghold of the Sudanese army in Darfur. Its fall marks not only a military defeat, but a moral collapse. This is the story of Sudan's new civil war, its origins, its players, and the catastrophe that's reshaping the Horn of Africa. To understand the current war in Sudan, we must look back to 2019. After 3 decades of a dictatorship under Omar al-Bashir, the Sudanese people rose up in a wave of protests that ultimately toppled his regime. This was a moment of hope and a chance to transform a militarized state into democracy. However, behind the scenes, 2 generals took control of the revolution's future. General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the commander of the Sudanese Armed Forces, and Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, commonly known as Hemedti, the leader of the RSF, or Rapid Support Forces. They were both former allies of Bashir and had built their power through violence. Burhan commanded the regular army, while Hemedti led the RSF, a paramilitary force that originated from the notorious Janjaweed militias, which had terrorized Darfur in the early 2000s. Together, they ousted Bashir and promised a new path towards a transitional government aimed at civilian rule. Yet Sudan's history is rife with broken promises. In 2021, Burhan and Hemedti orchestrated another coup, this time against their own civilian partners, effectively extinguishing the dream of democracy overnight. From that point on, the 2 generals co-ruled, but not on equal terms. By 2022, underlying tensions between the army and the RSF began to surface. A proposed agreement to unify the 2 forces, intended to rebuild cohesion and national military unity, became a significant flashpoint. Burhan favoured immediate integration under army command, while Hemedti sought more autonomy and time. Neither trusted the other, and both began to mobilise their troops. The fragile peace finally collapsed in April 2023, when what started as a political dispute escalated into full-blown civil war. At its core, this Sudanese civil war is a power struggle between 2 generals, fighting not for ideology, but for survival. Burhan leads the Sudanese Armed Forces, which represents the traditional state, utilising tanks, aircraft, and established institutions. In contrast, Hemedti commands the RSF, a fast-moving, battle-hardened group primarily comprised of fighters from Darfur's Arab militias. Each side claims to be fighting for Sudan's future, but in reality, both are attempting to control the country. The Sudanese Armed Forces hold symbols of sovereignty, including the presidency, the state bureaucracy, and support from foreign allies. Burhan's government has relocated to the port of Sudan on the Red Sea after losing the capital to the chaos. On the other side, Hemedti's RSF controlled significant territory in the west of the country. His power and wealth largely stem from gold, much of which is smuggled through the United Arab Emirates, his most important foreign supporter. The RSF also receives weapons and logistical support from Libya, particularly from warlord Khalifa Haftar and his enlisted fighters from the Arab tribes in Darfur and Chad. For Hemedti, this struggle is not merely about Sudan, it is a fight for legitimacy and recognition as the country's true power broker. Sudan's civil war is not just occurring in isolation. Each faction has foreign backers pulling the strings from behind the scenes. Egypt and Iran support Burhan's army, while the UAE and Libya back the RSF. Even regional rivals like Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Qatar are getting involved, all seeking to exert influence over a nation that lies at the crossroads of the African and Arab world. From the moment the fighting erupted in April 2023, Sudan's war spiraled out of control. In spring 2023, gun battles consumed Khartoum. Airstrikes hit the airport, hospitals, and residential blocks. Within weeks, the war spread to Darfur, reigniting old ethnic rivalries. In Al Guinea, West Darfur, RSF fighters and allied Arab militias unleashed terror on the Masalat, a non-Arab ethnic tribe. Thousands were massacred. The city's governor, Kamisha Abka, himself a Masalat, was abducted and killed after accusing the RSF of genocide on live TV. By the end of the year, tens of thousands were dead and millions had fled their homes. Later that year, the war reached a grim stalemate. Khartoum was a city in ruins, divided between the two militaries. Darfur became the epicenter of atrocities, where entire communities were erased. Then in 2024 and 2025, the battle lines shifted again. With new Iranian drones and regional reinforcements, Burhan's army regained control of Khartoum. By March 2025, the regular army retook the presidential palace and declared the capital liberated. But the victory was hollow. While the army reclaimed the east, Hamiti's RSF seized all of Darfur, capturing Al-Fashar in October 2025. Sudan is now a divided nation. The east is controlled by the regular army, and the west is controlled by the RSF. But between them is millions of civilians, trapped in the crossfire. The human cost of this war is staggering. In just 2 years, over 12 million Sudanese, a quarter of the country's population, has been displaced. Refugees have poured into Chad, Egypt, and South Sudan, overwhelming the fragile borders. Entire families flee one city only to be forced out of the other weeks later. Inside Sudan, the infrastructure is collapsing, hospitals are closing, power grids are failing, and markets are empty. Across the country, 80% of health facilities are no longer operational. By mid-2025, famine had gripped the country, and more people are facing starvation in Sudan than anywhere else on earth. In camps like Zamzam and Abu Shok, children die from hunger as food convoys are either looted or blocked by regional militias. Cholera and malaria are also spreading through the flooded camps, adding insult to injury. The International Rescue Committee describes Sudan as the largest humanitarian crisis ever recorded, and the situation isn't due to natural disaster, it is a man-made catastrophe. What began as a war of ambition has turned into a war of survival. Beyond hunger and displacement lies something even darker. Reports of mass killings, sexual violence and ethnic cleansing echo through Darfur once again, 20 years after the first genocide in the region. The RSF and allied Arab militias are accused of systemically targeting non-Arab communities, burning villages, executing men and boys, and using rape as a weapon of terror. Satellite imagery reveals mass graves near Al Guinea and Aramata. Witnesses describe hundreds of bodies along the roads, children shot as they ran. And the army is not innocent either. Its airstrikes have flattened neighborhoods, killing civilians in their homes. Sudan is on the brink of collapse. Its territory is divided and its economy is in ruins. Ethnic tensions, once kept in check, are now weaponized across the entire region. Experts warn that if the war continues, it could lead to a permanent division. 2 Sudans once again, one in the east and one in the west, each controlled by a warlord. This scenario would not only cripple Sudan's democracy, but also destabilize the entire Horn of Africa, escalating conflicts in neighboring countries and contributing to further refugee crises from Cairo to Kampala. Yet amid the devastation, the Sudanese people, the same people who spearheaded the 2019 revolution, continue to call for peace, justice, and a restoration of the state that serves citizens rather than generals. Sudan's war began as a feud between 2 people, but its victims are the millions of innocent civilians trapped between the 2 armies, facing starvation and violence. As the world's attention shifts elsewhere, Sudan's crisis deepens. The question is no longer who will win this war, but whether Sudan can survive. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like and leave your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching. See you.